Okay, so let me quickly run you through this problem. If you just apply what you once upon a time learned about how to compute matrix-matrix multiplication, you remember that you do the first row dot product with the first column, and if you work it out, it becomes minus 1 times 1 plus 2 times 2, and then add it to 3. And then you move on and you say it's the first row with the second column, so you get minus 1 times minus 2 plus 2 times minus 1, and that has to be added to 0. And if you continue in that fashion, you can fill out this worksheet. You get a minus 1 here, and then you get 0 times 1 plus 1 times 2, which is added to minus 2, and then you get 0 times minus 2 plus 1 times minus 1 added to 1, and you just keep doing that. If you now carefully look at the computation that happens here, what you recognize is that that's just this matrix times the first column added to this first column. This is matrix A, B, and C, so it's matrix A times the first column of B added to the first column of C. So we can write that as this right here. And then this computation right here, if you carefully look at it, that's just matrix A times the second column of B added to the second column of C. So this is A. You multiply that times the second column of B, and you add that to the second column of C. And the same thing for the last column of entries. It is matrix A times the third column of B added to the third column of C. Now, if you took our course Linear Algebra Foundations to Frontiers, LAFF, then actually you would have started by learning that matrix-matrix multiply works this way. And that then actually justifies how you learned matrix-matrix multiply in some other course, probably in high school at some point. Okay? But it's really important to realize when you do matrix-matrix multiplication, one way to view that is the matrix A times the first column of B added to the first column of C, the matrix A times the second column of B added to the second column of C, and so forth. So the fact is, I would much rather have you start with this right here. Recognize that you need to do matrix A times the first column added to the first column of C. So in other words, go from here to here and fill this out. And then have that dictate this right here. In other words, you look at this and you say, oh, I'm doing a matrix vector multiply added to a vector. The matrix vector multiply just means that I fill in the matrix A right here. And then this is just the matrix vector multiply added to a vector. And really all I need to do is fill in this matrix right here again as such. And so forth. Right? So, I want you to understand matrix-matrix multiply really is defined as matrix A times the first column of B added to the first column of C, and so forth. And that's what this particular exercise is meant to instill in you if you had not seen that before.